Hi everyone, and welcome back to the next edition of the Tea Break. And now that we're starting to get into the swing of things of the whole cricket summer and what have you over here, or just in general, obviously, but specifically over here, and we've just had the Ashes. Obviously, we had that live stream last week. For those of you who came by, thanks for coming by. We definitely plan to do some in the near future, but we're not going to put a pin on any of them yet because there may not be a day's play by the time it gets to that point. Specifically, I'm talking about the day nighter at the Gabba up next week. So we'll confirm that pretty much on day two of that test, I think, as to whether we're actually live streaming the following day. So yeah, but if we are, that should be good. Hopefully, more of you join us then. If not, then there's still three other tests for us to potentially try and get at least one more live stream out. So it's not the end of the world either way. So yeah, look forward to that. How have you been, Ben?
Yeah, well, Chester, good to see you, mate. Glad to be back. Yeah, it was an interesting day on Saturday, and we're gonna cover that pretty shortly to kick things off. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see, with the watch along if we actually get to if we get the chance to do another
Yeah.
one this summer, given the craziness of Friday, Saturday over in Perth at Optus. So
Yeah, look,
um,
as I said, if we can't get the Gabba, we still got three other tests we can get at least one more in, so it's not the end of the world, people, so don't worry. Yeah.
yeah, end of the world, no, but end of the series fairly soon. We
Yeah.
don't, we don't know yet either. So yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, we're going to talk about that shortly. We got a two-parter basically today. It's kind of split up into two parts. This tea break episode, a bit different than usual. Obviously, because we are football and a cricket channel, this is our first time to actually do some cricket reviews, like we do our football reviews every week. So of course, we're going to review that absolutely bizarre match of Test cricket that we witnessed over Friday and Saturday, literally only 2 days last week. Um, and then the second part, we're going to keep the cricket thing going with. We picked out six games for this, but in our opinion, six of maybe not the biggest of all time, but six big Test cricket match upsets across history. Although I will say that a lot of the picks are quite modern times. I don't know. Maybe it's just the fact that we weren't watching cricket in the 70s and 80s, which is kind of leaning into this fact.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
I certainly with my research, Chester, as I mentioned to you, I didn't want to go back too far into from to the archives. I
yeah,
think sort of what we've got is pretty good in terms of how far back these were. They weren't too far away. Um, reasonably recent, which is good. So I'm looking forward to getting stuck into those as well.
yeah. But before we get diving into those, let's just dive straight into what, in my opinion, was one of the most craziest matches of Test cricket. Now, as an England fan, obviously, and I've watched a lot of our matches in this Bazball era, I'm no stranger to us playing the way we typically play. And I've seen some crazy results, over the last couple of years as a result with England. But I think this one completely hits the top of the list and is going to take some beating. And I say that cautiously because it could well be beaten next week at the Gabba, the way it looks like it's going in this series, unfortunately for us. But it's like, I don't know about you, Ben, but like, remember when you used to sit down and you watch Test cricket and you'd be in for a 5 day slog that could end up in a draw?
Hmm.
Imagine welcome to Test cricket on fast forward, basically, because that's honestly what that match felt like to me. I don't know about
Yeah.
you. I watched both
Yeah.
days. I basically
Uh-huh.
watched both days, all from start to finish, and it literally felt like I was watching some, like I was watching a 5 day test match that someone had got the remote and just pressed the fast forward button on. Like it was utterly
Yeah.
ridiculous, wasn't it?
It did have that sort of feeling. I watched most of Friday and obviously the whole day on Saturday with yourself, but it did feel like that, and it sort of to me felt like a bit of a one day match, 50 overs aside sort of thing. And I mean, I'm looking at the England first innings and all out in just under 33 overs, which was
And it was pretty much the
amazing.
same. I think it was 35 or 36 we ended up batting in the second innings. It is utterly ridiculous. Like, very shortly, I will get on, being the English fan in this duo, I will get onto my thoughts and frustrations, most importantly, with what England did in Perth and how they went about playing. But yeah, it's just utterly ridiculous. Like, I'm not one of these like Test cricket purists by any reach. I like baseball; it's entertaining. I like entertaining cricket. You know, I still like it when Test matches get a bit drawn out, but I like it all the same when it's going fast and aggressive. But this is a whole nother level of fun. Like this is just like it almost felt like England in particular were trying to just finish the test as quick as possible.
Yeah.
Like it
Mm.
didn't feel like we had any sustainable thought in that match of, oh, should we play for 4 or 5 days? It kind of just felt like, guys, let's go out there and let's get on the golf course by Sunday because I've got a hankering to hit me some up my course record from last time I was here, or in the case of a lot
Improve
of
your
our squad, the
improve
first
the
time they're here.
handicap. Yeah.
Um,
I'm sure
yeah,
I messaged you on
it was
Sunday
just
with
a
that as
bit
well. Yeah.
ridiculous, wasn't it?
It was, and I'm almost certain I messaged you on Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon saying exactly that, saying or it might have been my Saints WhatsApp group to say you reckon the English or the Aussies had a 9 a.m. tea time in Perth, tee off time in Perth on Sunday. That's how quick the game felt. But you're right. It was just it felt like they wanted to bat for 3 to 4 hours, not 3 to 4 days. So. It definitely had that about
Not
it.
even four. Hang on, not even 3 hours. We didn't even bat that long. Like it was literally just like it was almost like we were going out to bat a team. Like even in a 1 day match, that's incredibly fun. Like that's batting in a 1 day. That's like maybe not fast for a 1 day, but it's basically on pace with your bog standard 1 day score these
Yeah,
days. Like
yeah,
it's utterly ridiculous. I'm gonna go without saying that too much more times. Let's just go into the actual meat of the game, of the very little meat there was to that game. And we'll start with the England
yeah,
performance, of
yeah,
course.
yeah,
So obviously, the way I perceive it, and I think I told you this like after we like stopped our stream
yeah.
or
It's
something like
like
that.
you were
The
saying
way, yeah, the
just
way I
before with
perceive it is,
33
so yeah,
overs basically, and
yeah.
Australia batted 45. So we talked about that 1 day field. This definitely had it. It was just utter carnage, and
I mean, what
uh,
I will say
we
is,
definitely didn't
those of
expect
you,
that many
yeah.
wickets to fall on day one. But
So what I will say is
that's
those,
precisely what happened. It
Aussie
was
cricket fans.
pretty mental, to be honest. Uh, looking at looking at the England scorecard. I mean, Ollie Pope with 46, Harry Brook with a pretty crafty 52, Jamie Smith
Yeah.
33. A few starts, and then really basically four plays in double figures, and that was it for the first innings.
Yeah. Like, what I will say about it is those cricket fans of you may remember last year at Optus as well, when India came over here, there was a record where 17 wickets ended up falling on day one in that particular test. And trust England to go in and just do what we do so well under this regime and break records, right? And 19 wickets fall on day one as a result of that. It's just crazy, wasn't it? Like, just
It really
insane.
was. Yeah,
Like from my perspective, like as an England fan's perspective, I kind of get the feeling like this is my takeaway of it. It's like knowing how we batted and how timid and afraid of their attack that we were in 21-22 when we were last over here. It almost felt like we went into that game to be like, look, we don't care about what score we post. We just want to show the Australian team that we're not afraid of hitting their bowlers around the park this time, right? Which is all well and good, but as you know, Michael Vaughan and so many other English pundits or pundits in general have been saying up into the lead into this, and they're still going to say after, is Bazball fine, but Bazball with brains perhaps, and that's a
mm,
perfect example of what England didn't do:
yeah,
play with brains.
hmm
You know, you got to earn the right. What I don't get is I don't like. It's almost like Australian players. The team was just in our heads so much. It was just like, guys, we can't do anything until we prove to them we can. What do you need to prove?
yeah,
Like they've been watching our games since over the last several, like 3, 4 years. Every team in the world knows what we can do when we get into our groove, and they know how quickly we can take away a game from an opposition.
hmm
So why do you need to go out there and basically first innings in a venue which not many of this team have played Test cricket before,
yeah,
try and smack an attack? around the park at 6 or even 7 and over. It felt at times. Like, where's the point in what are you trying to prove?
Yeah.
Australia are just really right on you. Any chance you give them to just take a wicket from shots that you just stupidly play,
They'll
and
take
the
it.
amount of wickets we threw away in both innings, it's just going to rile them up to be more on top and more confident. That's how
Yeah.
Australia play these days. They're not the machine that they were in the mid 2000s and before, and just like and slightly before. They're a team that would play well on confidence. If they're not high on confidence, they don't play well.
No.
And we saw that in the first innings when we went out to bowl. And like, I will say that was some of the best bowling I think I've seen us ever pull out in a Test match in Australia, hands down. Like, the bowling attack excites me for this series, so long as they can all stay fit. But we saw what happened to Australia when their confidence was down. We skittled them. Like that, the position we put ourselves in at the end of day one, despite how ridiculously brainlessly we batted, was a position of such strength that we should have come out on day two and not just done the same shit that we did on day one when we batted,
Hmm.
but played a little more sensibly,
Yeah.
and then got into a position where we could just absolutely take the game away from them, and then we're 1-0 up in the series, and we've won our first test in Australia since 2011, and the confidence is high. But no, instead, for some reason, after doing it one innings, we decided we have to go do it a second time.
Mm.
It just, it's just
Yeah.
like the frustrate. This is the frustration England fans are starting to come to grips with now. Well, not grips with it. We're starting. This is the reason we're starting to get frustrated. We've enjoyed that novelty factor of how we play cricket, right? We've enjoyed that for a couple of years, but now we want to actually start seeing results, because the truth is, we haven't won a five-match series since they took over McCullum and Stokes. I mean, we haven't won a five-match series for a couple of years prior to that as well, but the point remains is that we haven't won a five-match series in the Bazball era yet, right? Now, this one isn't over, but it's an awful large mountain to climb compared to a couple of years ago when Australia came to England and we almost came back from 2-0 down to win it 3-2. In the summer, we should have won that final test at the Oval against India and won that series, but we couldn't do it. And the way we've started here and the way we're showing right now in this series, it doesn't look good either. But this is the frustration. As fans, we love it. We love the novelty of Bazball and the results and the craziness it can bring. But we also want some consistency now.
Hmm.
Like, it's been a few years and we want to see results start to come as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's all well and good knowing that every now and then we can bat 700 odd runs in like 90 to 100 overs and just completely break some ridiculous batting record. Fine. But we still want results. We want to be a better team. We want to win more games. We want to win more series. That's the bit now that we sit with. So yeah, that's my take from an England perspective as an England fan on the game. You know, just a dumb England performance is what I can kind of just lambast it as, I guess. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
some shining lights. You know, the 50 in the first innings from Brook. I thought he looked really good considering it's his first time playing in Australia in Test cricket.
Yeah.
I thought Duckett looked bright in both innings, albeit getting out relatively early. I was very impressed with Pope. All the stuff that the pundits and the so on that they've been saying will stick to cricket eventually, and all the reports we heard going into the series that he's been working on his technique and his head's not kind of falling over as much when he goes to try and clip those shots off the pads and leaning in that direction, sort of thing.
Hmm.
Like, his technique looked a lot better, his stance looked a lot better, and I think he could have a decent series. And he did look good in both innings, despite not making it 50. Obviously, Joe Root had a very poor game, didn't even make it into double figures, got a duck and then 8 runs or 6 runs, I think.
Yeah.
Ben Stokes, likewise, not a particularly great match with the bat. Excellent with the ball in the first inning, so that
Absolutely
five
brilliant
was
with the ball.
brilliant.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, there's positives for England, but there's some massive negatives that are glaringly obvious. But I think worst of all, ones which are so fixable if we just switch our mindset off this stupidity of let's just try and show them we're not afraid of them by hitting them around the park,
Yeah.
right? Let's just show them we're not afraid of them by winning against them. And that's what's going to we win against them in Australia. That's what's going to make them feel pressure, right? I don't think they care if Mitchell Stark comes on, bowls an over, and then Boland comes on and gets smacked for 10 if Mitchell Stark then goes and picks up 2 wickets in his next 2 overs. I don't think they care too much about that, but they will care if we beat them, so that's what we have to do. Um,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
as I know you're not a massive fan of this Australia setup. I mean, who is? Apart from people who are. But I gave the England perspective. I guess it's only fair you give the Australian perspective, even though you're not a big fan of this setup. You are Australian, so I guess it makes sense. What was your take from an Australian perspective of winning that first test, obviously in the series?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things I've sort of picked up about the Australian sides in sort of post Ponting and Hayden, those guys is they can smell blood and they can. It does give them a boost. You mentioned that sort of before they were playing with a renewed confidence after day one, and it showed. I mean, Stark obviously had a blinder, uh, with his 7 wickets and took three in the second. But um, the English guy will sort of uh, really circle on is Joe Root. He he's looking for that first 100 on Aussie soil, and he failed miserably. But I think I was saying to you at about 7 o'clock on Saturday night when the game was almost over. I'm thinking, well, they could do worse and give him the ball and give him a few overs to sort of put a cat amongst the pigeons. And I guess that probably shows my sort of, shall we say, lack of support for the Australian side, I suppose. But um, yeah, well, they were pretty dominant, but I was sort of concerned that giving England sort of ripped them apart in the first innings. How would they go in the second? And uh, just having a look at some of the stats. I mean, Travis Head,
Yeah, I mean,
123 off
look, we're not
83.
going we're not going to
He
ignore that. I mean, look, even I can
no,
stand up and applaud what a fantastic century that was in that second innings from Travis Head, being
yeah,
pushed up to open and just absolutely showed us how to baseball. Basically, is
yeah,
what I can say.
yeah,
Unfortunately, so, but I
yeah,
have to admit it.
yeah. We definitely didn't think that he was. You and I definitely didn't think he was going to open and score 120 odd. But minus Labuschagne not out 51. And pretty rapid score. Yeah, 51 off 49. In a test match, that's sort of more your big bash or your ODI figures really. So and Smith's coming out to bat, making two, just plotting out there to hit the winning runs, of course, and get his get his name in the paper perhaps, but um, to hit the winning runs. But yeah, look pretty clinical in that second innings. They only had 205 to make, and they put paid to that pretty quickly. So from that perspective, as I said, they smell blood in the water, and I guess they'll be going to Brisbane with the pink ball, hoping
Well, I mean,
to
that being
recreate
said,
that.
it has been they have announced their squad. Cummins and Hazelwood still miss out.
Mm,
Not that it affected them that much
no,
against us in Perth. So I imagine it's probably going to be similar lineup. The big question is Lyon going to play? I mean, I can't imagine they wouldn't play him. I can see a world maybe where they'd go for an extra seamer, but it's very rare that they drop Lyon. I know they did um, against West Indies in that third test of the Caribbean, but I mean they'd already won the series at that point.
yeah,
I mean they could do it, but I'll be a little surprised if they did drop Lyon this early in the series. I know he really didn't do an awful lot in that test. He didn't bowl that much. Obviously, didn't take a wicket, and did tried to do what he could have done potentially what he does from time to time with the bat, but didn't really have much of an impact there either.
yeah. Well, I
Yeah,
guess
England have a mountain to climb.
yeah,
The one saving grace of that first inning test performance is that first innings of bowling. The way we
yeah,
went out and attacked the Australians. They aren't used to that. They haven't been used to facing that sort of stuff from us in a long, long time,
yeah,
really. Because
absolutely,
as good as Broad and Anderson were for us, they didn't have that express pace and bounce on hand. It was really only Mark Wood in recent years who could offer that in Australia. And then this time round, you got Archer, Wood, you know, those two alone. Then Cast was offering some short stuff. Atkinson always up for some short stuff, and even Stokes himself these days goes with some short stuff. And then we still got Tongue as well in reserve. Whether or not he gets a game with the Gabba, I imagine there will be some rotation from our part, knowing with the fitness concerns we'd have over that bowling attack of ours.
yeah,
I could see some changes. If I wanted to say it, I think Atkinson was the worst of the bowlers. He wasn't terrible. He was very good, in fact, bowling up front. Even though he didn't take a wicket in the game, especially in that first innings with the ball, he was incredible. Like not allowing the Aussies to score a run in partnership with like Archer at the other end. So yeah, I would like to see Tongue come in. If it's not the Gabba, at least Adelaide. But at least whilst there's something still on the line, I would like to see Josh Tongue get a go because there's. I thought he had a very good summer against India, especially when it came to cleaning up the tail and stuff like that. Um, that is something he's good at, and it's good
Yeah,
that England have a bowler like that in their ranks now.
yeah,
But yeah, I guess it's just England. You know, to sum it up, England disappointed. Really, I thought we would just come with a little more kind of nous about trying to not just trying to be stupid, basically,
yeah,
compared to
yeah,
excuse me,
yeah.
yawning on camera, people. Excuse me.
I guess
um,
I was just going to say just on that, the last point I'll probably make, and I'll probably raise this with you is, do you think that England not going with that frontline spin option sort of hurt them at all in terms
I
of
don't know.
overall
It's hard to
result?
say, right? Because we bowled them out for 132 in the first innings. Clearly, we didn't need the spinner. And whilst they found it easy against our paces, they did only need 205. So I think even if we did pick Bashir, let's just say, how much of an impact he would have really made, I can't imagine if it's just following a similar trajectory. He wouldn't have really bowled if at all in that first innings. And even if he bowled in the second innings, I don't think it would have made such a difference that we would have won that game. So
Yeah.
I don't really think that, you know,
Hmm.
that not having the frontline spinner in that game was the worst choice, to be honest.
Yeah.
I could see other tests in this series, it could be a necessity.
Yeah.
But yeah, in that one, and again with the pink ball, even though I know Australia will probably play line again, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't play a frontline spinner, and I don't think it would be the worst choice for that one either.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean we've highlighted before a few times that we think this series is going to be definitely one for the bowlers more than it is the batsmen overall. Um, just because of the nature of these Australian pitches now.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
definitely. Yeah.
yeah,
So we'll have to wait and see what Brisbane
yeah,
brings. So yeah.
exactly. Yeah, so that will probably wrap up our quick review on the test match, of course, and now we'll dive into the second half of this today's episode, I should say, and we'll bring up the test upsets, which we got an interesting selection, don't we?
We certainly do. I've sort of carefully curated mine, as I said, not going too far back, but I really wanted to hone in. I said to you before we came on air, if we're going to do this, you may as well make them really sort of interesting. And I think we've got a really good mix. We've both had a look
Yeah.
at them, so um,
So why don't we just begin?
yeah,
We're talking about the Gabba. Why don't we begin at the Gabba?
yeah,
Um, in January last year, where West Indies managed to get an incredible win against Australia. Their first win in Australia in 30 odd years, I believe it was, when that happened. It did mean the series was drawn 1-1
yeah,
as well.
yeah.
So yeah,
So
that was quite the test match, wasn't it?
it
Not
was
mainly for Shamar Joseph and his incredible sevenfer in that second innings to
no,
just
it was superb. I remember watching it here at home and sort of really sort of willing the Windies on to win it, just because it's always nice to. I am Australian, but yeah, I am a big underdog fan as well. That's one of the reasons why we're doing this particular selection. But I do have a memory, Chester, of the Windies in their dominant sort of 90s era winning. I think it was at the Wacker, and the prize for winning the series was a Toyota. I want to say a Toyota Hilux or something, and there's this image, and I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere, of the Windies players in the car driving around the outfield of the Wacker with the doors. I think the doors open. So OHS back then wasn't as high on the agenda as it probably is now with Test cricket sides, but that actually happened. So yeah, this when I look back at this game, it certainly gave me really funny memories of guys like Courtney Walsh and Ambrose and those guys. Richie Richardson, driving around in a car after winning the series here in Australia. But
Right.
this particular game was
Oh, we're
pretty
back on topic. Yeah,
yeah,
we're back on topic, everyone.
little sojourn.
Good
But
little anecdote from Ben that has absolutely fuck all
yeah,
to do with the West Indies
and if you
game we're actually talking about.
if you like my anecdotes, people, please like and subscribe. Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, plenty more to come from as the summer wears on. But anyway, so the West Indies 311 and 193. So the Australians were 289 for 9 declared, and they had a target of 216 and fell 8 runs short, making 207. Josh Hazlewood, I think, was the last man to go out. He was bowled by Joseph, one of his
I believe
768.
Steve Smith made a 91 opening. I think that was his
Really?
highest score. Yeah, he did. That was his highest score when he in that brief period where he was actually trying to open the batting for Australia, which he was tragically bad at.
Yeah.
And I'm annoyed he went back down to 4 because it was so enjoyable watching him look very average. Um, but yeah, that was the case. One thing to note in that match, and what possibly did get apart from Shamar Joseph's fantastic seventh in the second innings, in the first innings, West Indies were 5 for 64 when Justin Graves got out. Um,
Yeah.
and then it was that partnership of Kevin Hodge and good old Josh De
De Silva.
Silva.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the Brentford player, football fanatics who were thinking like that. The Joshua De Silva, the West Indies wicketkeeper. Um, yeah, that partnership of them taking them from 5 to 64 for 6 for 213 by the time De Silva got out, which helped them en route towards that 311. Of course, then Kevin Sinclair came in and made a very handy 50 runs of his own,
Yeah.
um, helping them further along. And they kind of just carried that momentum then. Australia, made that decision to declare. They only batted 53 overs. I mean, I say only batted after what we talked about England recently, but and then skittled West Indies for under 200. And you think, okay, yeah, well, they only need just over 200 wins. It's probably going to be a bog standard Australia win. And then Shamar Joseph just absolutely just rips through that Australian batting lineup in that second innings
With
in the most incredible
yeah.
fashion as well. Because I don't know if you remember, but he'd broken his toe or something, I believe,
I
on
was
the
just
morning
about
of
to
that
mention it.
day
Yeah, I
when
do
he
remember
bowled him
that.
out. And then he had like
Yeah.
his shoes had a hole cut in it, so his toe had room, and he still just like steaming in on a broken toe, basically ripping poles out of the ground. Just
Yeah.
incredible stuff. That
It was
was.
superb to watch. I do remember the injury and the hole cut out of his toe. I don't play cricket anymore, but I could certainly cut holes in my boots and sort of see how that goes. But yeah, just because I'm getting older, not because I play cricket and taking 7 wickets at the Gabba. But it was fantastic, and that's what cricket's all about. We look back at Graham Smith almost winning a Test match for South Africa, coming out to bat after breaking his hand. Just really heroic stuff like that, and that's what makes Test cricket and games like this really special. So, but
Yeah.
I won't get off topic too much more. What are we?
Yeah, we'll move
Yeah,
on.
we'll move on.
On that
Yeah,
note, we'll move on to the next result we put here from 2019. It was a Bangladesh-Afghanistan test. The reason we put this as an upset is because Afghanistan won this test. Now I know Bangladesh, no disrespect to them, they're not the hardest of opposition to play these days. Um, but Afghanistan had really only started to come into their kind of realm as like starting to become a fully fledged test nation as opposed to the associate nation which they were before. So winning this game was huge for them. Um, you know, of course, who else but Rashid Khan was their man of the match.
yeah,
11 wickets throughout the match, a 5 throw in the first innings, a 6 throw in the second, and a 50 in the first innings, and then another 24 runs with the bat. I mean, talk about an all-round performance from Rashid Khan. That is
yeah.
staggering. That is
That's exactly
11
what I would
wickets
say
and
to describe it.
11 wickets and almost 80 runs as well to go with it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
that's some quite incredible stuff.
yeah,
Um, just looking at the scorecard now because obviously I didn't really watch this game, but 3-4-2 in the first innings from Afghanistan, a really good century from Ramat Shah, a good old 90 from Ashgar Afghan as well, and then backed up down the order from with a 41 from Afsar Zazai, and then of course that 51 from Rashid Khan, who was also the captain in that game. Um, And then, Bangladesh, they just got to work basically. Bangladesh relatively limited, apart from a 50 from Momin ul Haq and a 48 down the order from Mossadegh Hossain.
Mm.
Not really much else to write home about in that
No.
205 innings from um, Bangladesh. The five for, of course, from Rashid Khan Nabi, your Renegades boy, picking up a
Extravaganza.
free for, picking up a free for on what was definitely a very spinning deck.
Spin friendly.
Afghanistan then replied with 260, another 50 for Ashgar Afghan, another 40 for Afsar Zazai, and an 87 as well. Off 208, so a relatively kind of grinded out innings there from Ibrahim Zatran. But the 260, ended up being enough because they bowled Bangladesh out for 173 in that second innings. And the only scores to note for that: Shabman Islam 41, Shakib 44. That's really it. And six for Rashid Khan, a three for Zahir Khan, not the Indian fast bowler of yesteryear. Um, and another wicket for Mohammad Nabi. So yeah, that's just an incredible performance really there if you think about it with all that broken down from Afghanistan, wouldn't you say?
I certainly would, but I guess one of the Afghani guys that sort of caught my eye when I was just looking at the scorecard. And for those of you that did tune into our tea break episode a few weeks ago on obscure cricketers, we did mention this guy. Um, his first name Chester what is it Karate, the surname?
Oh, Krishna Chandran,
That's the one, yeah. I know, yeah.
the
No,
UAE batsman.
yeah, yeah. Um, who I obviously mistaken for Afghanistan, but that's on me for not doing my research. But yeah, this was superb, and you mentioned Rashid Khan. Look, you did mention an all-round performance, and I think uh, he's playing for the Strikers. I think in the Big Bash again this season, isn't he? He's
Rashid Khan, no,
yeah,
he's long
no.
gone for the Big
Oh,
Bash.
long gone. Well, I was
He,
going to say
he quit
Adelaide.
a few years ago
I was
now,
going to
yeah.
say Adelaide would be looking forward to some of his repeat performances until you've just told me that he's not actually playing for them.
Remember
So
he refused to he quit. I think it was a couple of years, 1 or 2 years ago,
yeah,
seasons ago, because like he didn't agree with Cricket Australia. Like Afghanistan were meant to come and play in
that's
Australia,
right. That's right.
or and
Yeah,
Australia refused to have them come play due to like political reasons and
yeah.
stuff like
I
that.
do
So
remember
after
that.
that, he
Yeah,
basically kind of
yeah,
basically quit the Big
mm,
Bash basically
yeah. I
because
do
Cricket
remember
Australia's
that.
like decision making.
Yeah, I definitely remember that now you mention it. But certainly back to this particular game. And apologies to the viewers for getting off topic again there. But these are the sort of things that our mind sort of when we talk about players like this and sort of connected competitions. But look, it was a great win for Afghanistan, and look, Bangladesh. You know, uh, they're a stronger side now, but certainly, it's moments like this from Afghanistan that really sort of give you that confidence as a test playing nation. But not only that, in other competitions, we remember the fight that they put up to Australia in the World Cup a year or two ago until Glenn Maxwell tore them to shreds on his
Yeah.
own. Um, and I did see some highlights of that the other day, actually. But
Yeah. Again, I'll
yeah.
stop you before you go on a tangent. Not relevant
but,
at all.
but this particular game was fantastic, and it's why I've got that in there as well.
Yeah, yeah. So, people, we are talking about the biggest test upset. I don't know why he's banging on about Maxwell's one-legged performances. Amazing as it was, it's completely irrelevant to what the Afghanistan-Bangladesh game. So with that, we'll move on to what was quite a ridiculous result. Again, it ended that the series was drawn in this two-match series, but this was the first test of it, and after this result, there was a genuine feeling, I remember, that Bangladesh could potentially win this series. It was Bangladesh winning in New Zealand back in 2022 at Mount Maunganui, and in quite dominant fashion as well. So New Zealand made 328 and 169 in their two innings. Bangladesh 458 and then 42 for 2 to win the match by 8 wickets. Now, this series will be remembered by Kiwi fans that it was Ross Taylor's last ever Test series for New Zealand. And in the second Test of this series, he actually took a wicket with his last, in his last ever innings, which is quite funny. A batsman goes out with this last real impact for his country being a wicket. Pretty cool that.
Yeah,
But on this game, yeah, it was quite a remarkable performance from Bangladesh. Who, just going into this, no one ever would have predicted they'd go and win in New Zealand. given the fact that they, over the years their bowling has really been geared towards having a really good spin attack, to just turn up and just beast it basically with pace. It was Ebadot Hossain who did, fairly take man of the match in this because he got a sixer in the second innings that helped them bowl New Zealand out for 169. And I believe, yeah, just the one in the first innings, but it was that second innings six for 46, which was quite remarkable. I remember watching bits of the highlights, I think, here and there. Um, if we go back, the first innings, New Zealand looked strong early on, 50 from Will Young, 122 from Devon Conway, a 75 from Henry Nichols. I believe the last time he made any like contributing runs towards any New Zealand scorecard, probably.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
a man
yeah.
who's been forgotten over the last few years because he's become so average.
Hmm.
Also interesting to note in that first innings, I just realised Mominor Hackball 4.1 overs, took 2 for 6. So, for a complete part timer, it's not bad. Then Bangladesh went into bat and just the dominance took over. 458. No centuries, funnily enough, in that, but 78 from Mahmoud Hassan Joy, 64 from Najmul Hossain Shanto, 88 from Mominor Hack. Lytton Das chipped in with an 86 of his own, and then just further down the order, Mahidi Hassan Miraz, who always likes to chip in with runs later down the order, with a handy 47 off 88, helping them towards that total of 450 plus,
Mm.
which was just surprising, really. And then to go and bowl New Zealand out for 169, as I mentioned before, where Ross Taylor and Will Young were the only ones who made scores of note. In fact, most incredibly, there were 5 ducks in that second innings.
Yeah.
Nichols, Blundell, Jameson, Salvi, and Wagner all got figures of naught
Yeah.
in that second innings, so quite incredible that. And then,
Yeah.
they only needed 42 to win and chased it quite comfortably, only losing 2 wickets in the end, Bangladesh. So
Yeah.
that was, that if we're talking about upsets, that's right up there for me because, in New Zealand, New Zealand are usually quite good at home, but at the very least, Bangladesh are usually not great at all outside of the subcontinent.
No.
And yeah, to
Yeah.
win in that manner, that dominant manner,
Yeah.
I know they got completely battered in the second test and the series was drawn 1-1, but still, and to win in that dominant manner in New Zealand, even that one test in the series was something quite remarkable, I feel.
Absolutely, and this is exactly why we've decided to cover this subject. It's not about the test series; it's about individual matches, and when you've got performances like this, and a couple of things I've sort of taken from the scorecard was, we mentioned Ebadot Hossain, these 6 wickets. He did have a zero not out of 2 balls as well, so he did hold up an end at the end there, and can't be understated amongst all of that. I kid, of course, but the second that the Kiwis getting scheduled for 169, um, they were 5 for 136 when Tom Blundell went out, so they lost 5 wickets for under 35 runs. Um,
Yeah,
Incredible
pretty much,
performance,
yeah.
really, and we talked about Samar Joseph before. This is also one of the greatest test bowling figures that I've seen in more recent times. So and again a brutal shot in the arm for Bangladesh. Yes, they didn't win the series and it was drawn, but this I remember at the time gave them a whole lot of confidence, and it's the first one of these recaps, Chester, that I haven't rambled on about something else. So I think
Okay, good. So
that's
we can
great.
move on to the
Yes,
fourth. We
yes,
can
we
move on
can.
to the next test before you mention Dizzy's 200 against them in 2001 or
Which I did,
whatever it was.
which I did think about putting in there, but it's not an upset. It's just a great bit of little
No, but I know,
great
but
bit
you
of
know how you
sportsman's
like to go on
nights.
random tangents
Yeah,
that mean absolutely nothing.
indeed. What's the next game?
Yeah, we'll just move on before you bring up that game. Um, so yeah, it's keeping in the theme of mentioning teams that we've literally just mentioned in other games, but in a winning capacity this time, like we did with Bangladesh, who lost to Afghanistan, then beat New Zealand in the one after. This is a New Zealand win. This was recently as well. A lot of you remember this was literally October last year, so it was just over a year ago now. And this was the first Test match of a 3-0 series from New Zealand. And I believe the catalyst was what's begun an awful run of form for India in home Test matches since then. Um, so yeah, it was New Zealand who beat India in this test. Now, obviously, we're doing regular test upsets. I find this series was an entire upset because New Zealand won the series 3-0 a three-match Test series in India, they won 3-0, which is just remarkable. Um, but yeah, New Zealand. I'll just pick the first match in this series just because I feel this was the one which was the catalyst, obviously, for New Zealand to go ahead and win that series. Um, what's notable about this is it kind of just played into New Zealand's hands. There was a lot of rain for the first day or so, I believe, in Bengaluru. Um, Bangalore, yeah, in Bengaluru, and it really affected the pitch conditions. And by the time India went out to bat, because they were batting first, the pitch conditions suited New Zealand seamers perfectly. And not only that, they bowled them out for 46 on their home patch, which is just remarkable. 46. I'll just run through the scorecard now of this quite remarkable innings. Jaiswal 13, Rohit Sharma 2, Kohli duck, Sarfraz Khan duck, a 20 from Rishabh Pant, a duck from KL Rahul, a duck for Jadeja, a duck for Ashwin, 2 for Kuldeep Yadav, 1 for Bumrah, and then a 4 not out at the end for Mohammad Suraj. The wicket takers, Salvi got 8 for 1 off 6 overs, 5 for 15 off 13.2 for Matt Henry, and 4 for 22 off 12 for Will O'Rourke. An incredible performance, especially that 5 for 15 from Matt Henry, who I always say is one of the most underrated bowlers in Test cricket
Definitely.
over the last couple of years because of just how good he is and how little people seem to talk about him. Um, and then New Zealand responded by showing it wasn't a pitch that was designed for bowlers. It was a pitch you could damn well bat on by putting up 402 when they replied. 134 off 157 for Rachin Ravindra, a good strike, a brilliant strike rate, a 65 off 73 down the order for Tim Salvi, having one of those occasional innings of his, and up at the top, 91 off 105 for Conway. So yeah, New Zealand took complete control of that match, even though India did bounce back with a 462, 150 for Sarfraz Khan, a 70 for Kohli, a 50 for Sharma, and 99 for Rishabh Pant before he got bowled by Will O'Rourke. New Zealand still only needed 110 or so to win, and they did that 8 wickets down in the end. Courtesy of a solid partnership from Will Young and Rachin Ravindra at 2 for 35, those two just kind of buckled down and got on with the job, and they finished 110 for 2 to win that match, and then that basically became a catalyst to win the entire series 3-0. And as I said, has become a catalyst for India's poor run of home form because they've just lost another Test series at home to South Africa without winning one of those games either. So, it looks like it's continuing this poor home form for India.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I just find that was just an incredible result because no one saw that coming at the time.
No.
Because New Zealand weren't in particularly amazing form going into it. In fact, they'd had a Test series in Sri Lanka prior to that, which they'd lost. So they only made the short trip over to India and then won 3-0. It's just utterly remarkable result that was.
Yeah, just incredible. You look at that Indian first innings of 46. I don't know how many times that's happened with that nation, and such a proud nation of fans over there would not have been impressed with that result. So just incredible. But full credit to Henry in particular and O'Rourke for running through the Indian card, and 20 with Rishabh Pant just really says it all.
Yeah,
Just incredible.
yeah, exactly. Just ridiculous result that was. You'll like this next one I picked, Ben. This is more up your alley. We're going to go back to 2013. This is the earliest we've gone back for any of these games, in fact, which is, we have gone recently, as we said, people. If there's any we've missed from way back in the 90s or before, please let us know in the comments. But yeah, for this one, we've gone back to 2013 for a Zimbabwe win. I told you you'd like it. They beat Pakistan in this Test match. It was a narrow win by 24 runs, but what made this an upset and what made this significant when I found out, when I read it, when I was looking for biggest Test upsets, and this one stuck out for me. This was Zimbabwe's first win against a full member nation, discounting Bangladesh because they weren't particularly good, around those times. So a first proper full member nation who were decent in a decade, that was.
Wow.
Like, so that's quite incredible. Again, it was a drawn series. This was the second of a two-match series. Pakistan won the first test, but Zimbabwe did bounce back to win the second and end up drawing this series. But it was the significance of the win. Obviously, Zimbabwe were a full member nation all throughout the 90s into the early 2000s, and then all had all those issues with their government, and they lost their they had player strikes and stuff, and it affected their cricket team greatly. And obviously, they
Yeah,
ended up
yeah,
losing their full member nation a few years later as a result. And
hmm
at this time in 2013, they weren't a full member nation. They have since become one again,
yeah,
of course, of recently, but at this time in 2013, they weren't.
mm,
And they'd gone a decade since they'd last beat a really difficult opposition for, as I said, Bangladesh full member, but they themselves were kind of learning the ropes of being a full member nation around a few years around that. So, no disrespect to Bangladesh, but Pakistan was a much greater task for them, especially this Pakistan team. If we just go through it, Kuram Manzoor, Mohammed Hafiz, Azhar Ali, Yunus Khan, Misbah, Asad Shafiq. Never really heard of Adnan Akmal. Abdul Rahman I've heard of. Saeed Ajmal, of course, when he was still playing cricket. Junaid Khan and Rahat Ali. So, it's not a bad team of cricketers they've come up against. But yeah, this quite incredible Zimbabwe performance. I'm assuming you're looking at the scorecard,
I
Ben.
certainly am. Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, just
Zimbabwe 294,
yeah,
then 199, Pakistan 230 and 239. It was a narrow win, but it was basically kind of guided by, well, in the first innings, a handy 75 from Hamilton Masakadza and a 50 from Brendan Taylor. But in the second innings, it was all about that fiver from Tendai Chitara.
Chitara. Yeah,
I mean, Brian Vittori did pick up a fiver of his own in the first innings, but it
yeah,
was that second innings fiver from Tendai Chitara which really made the difference in the end.
yeah. Superb.
After they had been bowled out for just less than 200, so yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
incredible performance from Zimbabwe to get that win.
yeah.
If you think about it, like their team wasn't particularly amazing back then. They had a lot of younger players who were really kind of getting their first taste of Test
That's
cricket.
right. Yeah,
Players I've really not really heard of much, like Tino Mawoyo. I've heard of Vusi Sibanda, but then Masakaza Taylor, Malcolm Waller, Elton Chigumbura, they're all well known. But then Richmond Mutumbami, an old prospect with Saya,
yeah. I was just gonna
Tinashe
say that. Yeah,
Panyangara, Tendai Tatara, and
yeah.
then Brian Vittori, not Daniel Vettori.
Daniel
So
Vittori,
yeah,
if you're
not
watching, yep, like and subscribe.
yeah.
But
If
yeah,
you're
look,
watching this, Dan,
yeah.
if you're watching this, Dan, don't forget to like and subscribe.
But yeah, look, I certainly remember the particular match, and I remember the really difficult times through the Zimbabwe cricket had it, and we talked a couple of weeks ago about the '99 World Cup campaign that they had, which was actually quite good. And then we moved to '03, and that's when the political stuff
Yeah, it's like free. That's right. Yeah.
started happening, and it really set them back a decade until this particular moment when, as you said, guys like Prosper Sayer and some of these younger guys got their first taste of Test cricket. Um, but yeah, superb bowling from Tendai Chitara and Brian Vittori, as you said. But a guy like Hamilton Mazakadze who chimed in with 44 in the second innings. Tino Mawoyo made 58. Just those sort of guys who've been around the setup for a while to sort of lead those younger guys. And a guy like Brendan Taylor who remarkably, and I will segue because it's important here,
Yeah.
he's still playing. So
Yeah.
he's actually been playing for Zimbabwe in a tri-series in Pakistan against Pakistan and Sri Lanka. And I was actually looking at this today. So Pakistan were beaten by Sri Lanka this morning in a
Yeah.
T20 tri-series to make the final, which had they not, it would have been Zimbabwe in the final, which may not mean a lot to some of the viewers to think, oh, it's only Zimbabwe, who cares? But it's a pretty big deal for them to make any sort of a T20 or one day final against any opposition, given what they've had to sort of come back from. So, Taylor's I think 39, so for him to still
Yeah.
be
Sorry,
playing is a
all that. Yeah.
remarkable, even in the maybe just the shorter formats, is remarkable in itself. So you're right, Chester. I do think this is certainly one to cover, and I'm glad you did because I think we need to acknowledge that these sort of nations in the non, they had their full member nation status taken away because of all that upheaval, and for them
Yeah,
to do what
exactly.
they
Yeah,
for them to do what they did against a nation like Pakistan is remarkable, really, when you think about it now. What, 12 years later, nearly 13
yeah,
years later.
exactly. Right. Yeah,
You got to wonder if that would happen again in this sort of, would we see, um, if it was Ireland or someone like that who had their test status taken away, could they beat the might of Pakistan? We don't know, but just remarkable in itself. And it's still great to see now that they've got their not only their full member nation status back, but they're still able to play Test cricket against those fuller member nations. Bangladesh are great. Don't get me wrong, but to have Test series against New Zealand and against Sri Lanka and Pakistan and nations like that, it's credit to what Zimbabwe cricket are able to do now with these younger guys coming through and getting opportunities.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just remarkable. And speaking of remarkable, that takes us on to our final pick for test upsets here today. And we're going to go back to 2021 for this, for a personal favourite of mine. If England can't beat England, if England can't win Australia, at least some teams I don't mind can. So we are talking about the famous match at the Gabba in January 2021. All you Aussie fans watching remember this one through gritted teeth, I'm sure. Rishabh Pant's heroic 89 not out to take India home and over the line and make them win back-to-back series in Australia. The reason I'm calling it an upset is because Australia have been typically strong at the Gabba over a long time, and especially those comments I remember earlier in the series when the Aussies were all kind of going off that whole thing. Oh, we'll see you at the Gabba, India, and stuff. And then the so-called Gabatoire by the Australian fans was absolutely slaughtered. They were slaughtered in their own backyard. Is the
Mm,
best way I can put it.
yeah,
Um, um, India, incredible win. I just remember this one, and it has to say why I put this one as an upset, because I know it did secure India's second consecutive series win in Australia. So people are going, well, it's not really that much of an upset. The reason I picked it as an upset for India is because let's just look at their team. I'm assuming you're also on the scorecard
yeah,
right now, Ben.
yeah. The
They were
one,
basically
yeah,
riddled with injuries and other things. Basically, Kohli had left after the second or first test, I think it was in the series, because he was having a child. There were so many of their regular players out injured. Bumrah was missing in this game through injury.
yeah,
Ashwin was missing. Ashwin and Jadeja both missed this match through injury. Like, they were missing so many players. KL Rahul wasn't there. So we'll just go through this team. So we have Rohit Sharma, Shubman Gill, who was still kind of finding his feet as a test player back in that series as well, mind you. So he wasn't the same player he is these days. Pujara, who was coming towards the end of his career. Rahane was captain again, coming towards the end of his career. Agarwal, who really has been in some bad form for a number of years since he made his debut all those years ago, I can't remember what year it was where he started well. Then you got Rishabh Pant, Washington Sundar, Shardul Thakur, Navdeep Saini, Mohammad Siraj, and Natarajan to make up the bowling attack
yeah,
of that side. If you go through that India side, you look at it and you just go, huh? Like, that is just such an inexperienced side all round, really. And if you
yeah,
compare it to the Australia side, Harris, Warner, Marnus, Smith, Wade, Green, Tim Payne, Cummins, Starkline, Hazelwood,
mm,
they're almost. I mean, back in 2021, that was practically almost a full strength Australia, of course.
that's right. Yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah,
and they just absolutely Australia did put up 369 in the first innings, a good century from Marnus,
hmm
50 from Tim Payne, and 40s from Wade and Green to go along with it.
yeah,
But then India's 336 kept them in contention. No hundreds, but 60s for Washington Sundar and Shardul Thakur, as they put on a really good partnership that took them from 6 for 186 all the way up to 7 for 309.
mm,
And then the game was on. Despite that 5 from Hazelwood, Australia went out to bat. India kept them under 300 this time, albeit just. A 50 from Steve Smith and a 48 from David Warner. Really, all there was to mention on that. A 5 from Mohammad Siraj and 4 for Shardul Thakur, helping India that. And then it was the chase. It was still a big chase. 329 was the chase, and they got it done with 3 wickets to spare, courtesy of that fantastic innings, which I just still remember to this day, from Rishabh Pant, that 89. Some of the shots he was playing, the way he was playing, it was kind of like, you know, a typical Rishabh Pant innings, although a little controlled at times. It was just an innings where he knew he could get the job done and had to get the job done,
yeah,
and he was supported really well. I mean, it started. Shubman Gill got a really good 91 at the top of the order, but that supporting 51 or 56 off 211, a strike rate of 26.54 from Pajara. That was the key, as Hunt was able to start to let loose at the other end, and then by the time they got, I mean, Pajara fell at 4 for 228, so they think maybe they're still in a chance there. But India were only 100 away at that point, and
Yeah.
Pant was starting to find his rhythm.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, he was just 24 from Rahane, only 9 from Agarwal, and then 22 from Washington. But it was that 89 from Rishabh Pant which got them over the line. So yeah, that's why I put it in here.
Yeah.
I just think it was a remarkable performance from Rishabh Pant in
Definitely.
India, a second string India side largely for the most part, even
Yeah.
to beat an almost practically full strength Australia at that
Hmm.
time and win the
So
series. So
hard to
yeah,
do. Yeah, that's right. The one guy I sort of want to call out, and he's had a pretty even match, is Washington Sundar. Not because of the 22 he made or the wickets he took, but what a name! Like you think about we think about the names of Test cricketers over the journey, and what a name, Washington Sundar. Like sounds like a film star, But um, just that's just my 2 cents on that. But in terms of the game itself, you're right about, it was almost like a full strength, pretty much a full strength Aussie lineup, and for India to come to Brisbane, the Gabatoir, as we mentioned, and do that, was just superb, and another one of those sort of Australia home tests that I was, reasonably pleased to see India come and do what they did.
yeah, exactly. I just think I remember it most in that second innings when India were getting closer and excuse me, closer and closer to the target. Tim Paine's limited captaincy decision just to tell the bowlers to keep bowling short no matter what, even though they were clearly just like playing it fine and tiring the bowlers out, and it just felt like Australia had been broken and had no answers, and that was just
Mm,
great to watch as an Englishman.
yeah,
So yeah, that's the sixth and final one of our test upsets. We might do another one of these down the line, but yeah, because this was a two-part episode, we didn't want to drag on forever with like 10 or 15 of them. There's many more out there,
we
obviously. So
we've got
apologies to any fans if we missed some great performances. I for one couldn't. There was no England games at all in there at all. So like, I for one found it difficult because I just think even in recent years, I was just trying to think not many games. I think maybe the Headingley Test in the 2019 Ashes, but is that as much of an upset of just a remarkable way to win a Test
yeah.
match more than an upset, I guess, right?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, fret not, fans of this podcast, because this is just the test matches that we've done today.
Yeah,
I've said to you before, Chester, I reckon we could do a whole episode on just one day upsets and T20 upsets,
yeah, exactly.
and
Maybe
boy, I
we'll
can
do
tell
that
you, if I go
down the
through the
line. Yeah,
archives, I can dig up plenty of upsets from those two formats of the game for sure.
yeah. Maybe we'll dig up those ones next. Maybe we'll go for ODI at some point in the near future, and then at some point after that, we'll do the T20 upsets. Maybe that's a good way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's just a slightly shorter episode, just coming up on the hour mark. We're not always going to be an hour and a half, sorry, people. Um, but don't forget to like and subscribe and all that jazz if you've made it this far. Of course, the usual stuff. I know I always say that practically at the very end of our podcast, but hey, I just, yeah, that's what I'm like in it, clearly.
And we
Marketing
do
is not my
appreciate the
strong
support,
suit.
obviously. So, if you've tuned in previously to the Monday reviews or the midweek shows, we do appreciate it. So, like and subscribe, and
Yeah,
if we do have the capability to do a watch along for the Brisbane Test, we probably won't be able to sort of let you know prior, because we just don't know, as you and I, Chester, have talked about, what's going to happen for obvious reasons. But
yeah.
if we do decide to do, and we'll obviously update the Instagram, to let you guys know. But we do appreciate all the support, of course.
Yeah. Yes, that we shall do. So yeah, we will. As Ben just said, yeah, that whether or not we're able to get a stream going for the next test, we will. Don't worry, people. There's still 3 other tests after, so there's still plenty of time for us to get at least one more stream out of this series.
Yeah,
So we at least try and do that. So yeah, the Sydney test in January and stuff like that. Probably the Boxing Day one we won't be able to do, obviously, because Ben's going to be at one or even two of the days, and me and my partner will probably be up in the Sunshine Coast over Christmas as well. So, but we'll But we'll definitely try and get a live stream done between the next test and the last test of the series. Even if it ends up being that Sydney test, we will try and get at least one more done. Two if possible, but at least one more done for you guys, so don't fret about it too much. But yeah, so yeah, hope you enjoyed this episode as usual. Don't forget, you football fanatics, we've got more Bundesliga and A-League reviews coming on Monday. We've got a big week this week in the sense that Bayern and St. Pauli finally play each other for the first time this season. So come on, we didn't get the job done against Arsenal midweek, but doesn't matter.
Probably get it done
We're
this
gonna
week,
get,
so
yeah,
and
we're
I'm
gonna
just
get the job
yeah
done against St. Pauli. Hopefully, we
yeah
should. I mean, that'd be
not
terrible if we don't.
not 6-0 hopefully, mate, but just enough to sort of so I can sort of say, hey, we're sort of still on the improve after last week. But yeah, we've got some really good games over the weekend.
And the Sydney
Yeah,
Derby, don't
that's
forget
right.
as well.
That's exactly right. And I'll be checking out tonight's game that I can't remember who it's against, but
Yeah, someone,
I think it's Roar and Victory, I think, from memory. So
something like that. Yeah.
something like that. And City Mariners tomorrow. So looking forward to checking that out. City had a
Yeah.
good win
And
with the
also
Champions League.
Bundesliga fans, if it's not Bayern, also Leverkusen Dortmund this weekend, which is going to be a massive game in the top four. So that's
Yeah,
a big one as well.
indeed.
Both coming off the back of big wins midweek in the Champions League, especially Leverkusen winning 2-0 at the Etihad against City. That was a
Yeah,
very impressive game, and as a United fan, very enjoyable as well. Not more so enjoyable though of Liverpool getting bashed 4-2, getting smashed up 4-1 by PSV at Anfield. I have to say that one was the best. Um, but you know, I'm not talking about this. We're not a Champions League channel, but yeah.
yeah.
Excuse me.
Until St.
Had to
Pauli made the
sneeze, people.
Champions League, which will never happen. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, look, great episode, Chester. I thought that was the recap of the Perth test, and obviously those taking that trip down memory lane was great. So
yeah,
good to see, and yeah, looking forward to the weekend's football action.
yeah. As am I. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this episode today. Remember to leave a like, subscribe, all that jazz. Okay, so peace out, take care, and we'll see you guys next time.
Take care,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.